always sat on the select committee that deals with housing in its various different guises. So I'm on the Levelling Up Housing and Communities Committee right now. But we'd done a year-long inquiry into homelessness in England. And what was apparent to me, very clearly from the beginning of that, was that a lot of the evidence presented to us was that people needed help, guidance and assistance in finding a home when they were threatened with becoming homeless. Now, and I do differentiate this. The aim of the Homelessness Reduction Act was not to deal with those terrible circumstances under which people are forced to sleep rough on our streets or go in a park bench or somewhere. It was aimed to stop people from getting to that stage in the first place. Because the thing that astonished me prior to my Act of Parliament was, if you approached your local authority, you went to Brighton Council, and you say, well, I'm threatened with being homeless. I've received a Section 21 notice from my landlord, and I'm going to be on the streets. They would ask you very simply, they'd say to you, well, have you got children under the age of 16? Well, no, I haven't. No. Well, are you mentally ill? Not yet, I'm not. But I suspect if I'm on the streets, I'm going to be. No, it doesn't count. Are you physically ill? No. But if I'm on the streets, I'm likely to degrade quite rapidly. No. Do you abuse alcohol, drugs, or other substances? Certainly not, you might say. At which point, the local authority would turn around and say, well, very sorry, but we've got no duty to help you at all. If you like to go and sleep on a park bench somewhere or at a shop doorway, hopefully, one of the housing charities will come along and find you. Now, that to me, in this day and age, was an absolute scandal. At the end of the day, the stats still show that about just under half of homelessness happens because of private sector tenancy ends. The other reasons we know, relationship breakdown, and single homeless men have always been treated very badly by local authorities. It meant that if someone was threatened with being homeless, they could approach their local authority, and the local authority would sit them down and say, okay, how do we prevent you from becoming homeless? At the end of the process, the aim was that no one would actually become homeless because they'd be found somewhere to live. People leave hospital, don't have anywhere to live, end up on the streets, get ill again, and have to come back to hospital. So actually, it saves the public purse quite a lot of money. It also intended for prison leavers. It's now outrage, in my view, that still in this country, we release ex-offenders on a Friday, give them a bit of cash in their pocket, and say, pat them on the head and say, don't be a naughty boy again, and rebuild your life. So we put statutory duties on prison governors to ensure that people had a safe and secure place to go and live when they left prison. Youth homelessness had been addressed at all in this country. So the bill became an act. It took a year for the government to, obviously from 2017 to 2018, to bring in the advice and help for local authorities what to do. And there's very helpful level of guidance on how this should all operate. And then, of course, one of the other duties that we had under the Act also kicked in, and that's the duty to refer. Where someone in a public body comes across someone who is threatened with being homeless, they now have a duty to refer that person to the local authority so they can be given assistance. The whole aim of this, was that at the end of it, no one should be ending up the street sleeping rough. The estimate is at the moment that some 7% of private renters are in serious rent arrears. We are talking about 300,000 people who could become homeless literally overnight. So we do have some real problems. We still have the challenge of, even though the government have moved on, I think the last stats I saw was something like 33,000 people taken off the streets and found somewhere to live. We still have a large number of people who are in hotels, particularly those that have no recourse to public funds. That the government have failed to address, and I have been pressing for that to obviously to be dealt with. Enormous sums of money are being allocated now by government to local authorities to deal with rough sleeping homelessness in general, etc. Now, how wisely that money is being spent, I think the jury's out on that. Certainly, in my view, rent should not be raised more frequently than annually, and then only by an agreed level of inflation. I think you're absolutely right. One of the things that I think should be done is empower local authorities to borrow money to build new properties, as long as it's done on a prudential borrowing, i.e., when they borrow the money to build properties, the rental income that they're going to gain from the properties can then be ploughed back into repaying the debt.
Yeah.
And then if properties are bought under right to buy, then 100% of the sale receipts should be ploughed back into building new properties. I have a view of saying far better to encourage tenants to get a job and work for a living, pay their rent from their income, rather than existing on benefits, because the rent's so high that if they were to get a job, they lose their housing benefit and then they can't afford their rent. As you know, up to 56 days before someone becomes homeless, they can present themselves as being threatened with becoming homeless.
Yes.
So basically, under receipt of a Section 21 notice, they can immediately approach the local authority, which gives the local authority 2 months in which to provide help and assistance to get the person into a property. That's plenty of time, in my view. One of the problems is that some local authorities, and I can't speak about Brighton because I don't know, but some local authorities are ignoring the law, and they're still saying to people, "Oh, come back when you're actually homeless. We'll sort it out then." Which means they come back with their bags packed, literally, and nowhere to live.
Yeah.
The local authority then has to put them into emergency accommodation at the cost of the authority, which, by the fact that it's emergency, is much more expensive than if they arrange somewhere in the first place.
Yeah.
So, to me, that not only is it a breach of the law, but it's also economically very, very, very stupid for the council.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just to cover off something that I think Daniel was raising earlier, as well as what you said, Jim. In terms of the staff at Brighton Council working from home, it is a fundamental fact that the council have to provide a service, and they have to provide help and assistance. That's a requirement under the law. Now, far be it from me to encourage you to take legal action against your council, but from what I'm hearing, that is exactly what may need to happen, because if they're not fulfilling their duty, then that's a statutory duty. And I think, that's something that can be challenged. And it could be challenged, as Daniel said, by one person not receiving the service they should, going to court and challenge the local authority for failing to provide the service. Now, a strong case that would be presented to the courts. In terms of, Jim, what you're saying about forcing the council to do it, you are the people that elect the council. You elect the councillors. You pay your council tax or your rent or whatever it is to the local authority. They are your customer. You are their customers,
Yes.
and they should be treating you as customers to be served, provided they can do the job from home. Now, I fail to see how someone who is threatened with being homeless can actually have a proper conversation with someone who's working from home.